You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. I'm Rick, and I'm here with Paul and Anna. How are you guys doing?
I'm pretty hot, but fantastic. We're having a nice late summer happening here, and the skies are relatively clear where I am.
Oh, nice, nice. And Paul?
Do you want, the weather where I'm at, or how I'm doing?
Whichever one you feel is more interesting.
I could talk about the local team and how they're doing in sports ball, if you'd like.
If you want, if that's important to you.
It's this idle chat at a checkout line at the grocery store.
Okay, so I take that as a nothing, and
I'm good. I was good the whole time.
Okay, good. I am actually good, although sometimes my tone betrays that. Okay, so this is a follow-up to last week's episode in which we talked about great games that forgot to be fun, and as the internet is wont to do, we got kind of semantically dissected in our use of words, which I understand can be a little bit confusing, because again, if you really want to break down semantics, nothing really means anything at all. So I'm not really sure at this point exactly what I'm going to title this episode, but what we're kind of going for is basically the opposite of that. How would you guys really kind of sort out to describe this to somebody who kind of needs us to explain it to them?
I would say games that had the odds stacked against them. Generally speaking, this game was fun in spite of itself. Like, maybe, I thought there was a lot of things broken with the storyline or mechanically or this. There's just one or many reasons why it wasn't technically a great game or a masterpiece of a game, but it doesn't matter because I had fun with it anyway.
Mm-hmm. I guess the best way to describe this episode would be they're technically not good. Mm-hmm. Or there's a reason for them. There's an argument to be made for them not being good, but they were fun.
Yeah. No, games that were fun that just weren't very good. So I want to bring up Leisure Suit Larry, magna cum laude.
I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but I think it was intended to be pronounced magna cum laude.
Yeah.
Oh, gross. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Speaking of semantics, we just really broke down laude.
La-de-da-de. When I got this game, I didn't know anything about who made what, and I wasn't really paying attention. It was at a time in my life where I was like, ooh, it's another Leisure Suit Larry game, and there hasn't been one in a really long time, and I went to Future Shop, because remember, they actually sold games back in the day like that, and I picked it up and brought it home, and it was fun. It was cool. There was mini games, and, you got to talk with girls, and it wasn't Leisure Suit Larry. I was looking for a storyline, but I think for what it was a lot of fun.
That's a great example, Anna. For I think what we're trying to say is a game that just maybe shouldn't have been good, but you're like, hey, I had fun anyway.
And being younger, well, even now, I love it when they reference the other games. So they'd be like, oh, well, on his computer screen, he's playing Leisure Suit Larry 4, The Missing Floppies. Or you get the Hey Dildo sound. And it has those cool little references. So it wasn't completely out there. It wasn't anything to do with the same. I would call it Hero You to Quest for Glory almost. But,
Yeah, I've actually heard the, medium reviews about that Leisure Suit Larry game. It's not Box Office Bust, which apparently was just the drizzling shits.
Ugh, yeah, no, I was not going to bring that one up in this game in any manner.
Yeah,
that was so descriptive I could taste it. Yeah.
You never heard that expression before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's pretty graphic. But you're right, I have heard the argument before that it is actually fun, even if it's not, for all its flaws, for all the things that make it not Leisure Suit Larry or not a great game or whatever. I've heard some people say that they actually kind of guiltily enjoyed it. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it didn't go over well. Apparently they asked Al to be on the game, like he was going to have a role in it, and he's like, oh yeah, okay, and then they bailed on him. So he was like, fuck that game. But I didn't know that then either, right? Totally innocent. Totally innocent.
I don't get why they would turn him down either. That's so strange. Like, you have the opportunity.
Do you not, like, put his picture on your box, maybe? Like, if he's there, come on.
All right, this is a game I love. It's one of my favorite games, probably. But on paper, Space Quest 6 has a lot of problems. It maybe shouldn't have been as fun as it was. The storyline itself breaks the timeline of Space Quest and Roger's arc almost completely. It acts like most things didn't happen besides like a quick nod here and there. And then second, and maybe more importantly, is that the puzzles are all the worst. They're just the worst kind of moon logic in the world. Like, they are the epitome of just, like, I felt gaslighted by that game. It's especially, or maybe gaslighted by the walkthrough, who just nonchalantly made it sound like I should have got that. So for those reasons, that's why I say, yeah, it's, you know, technically speaking, I don't think it's a great game. You shouldn't break the main character's story arc in a game, and you shouldn't make puzzles that are enragingly nonsensical. But at the same time, I had so much fun playing it. I mean, it was just a great time. I mean, not all or just because of Gary Owens. Him and the narration and the writing, of course, of the narration was a huge part of it. But anyway, yeah, I had a lot of fun playing that game, despite the game kind of trying to get me to hate it.
I can totally see that. We've discussed at great length throughout numerous episodes our opinions on Space Quest 6. So, but yeah, I guess the only thing I can really throw in at this point that I haven't beat to death in the past is that you're right that on paper, I can really pick it apart as to why I shouldn't like this game or why I think I don't like the game. But as soon as I turn it on and I play it, it's a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it brings me back because, again, I was excited to get a Space Quest game. When it came out, it was in a small box, and I hadn't had a new Space Quest game. I don't know how long it was between them, but at least to me, it felt like it had been a long while, so I was just stoked to get it. So I don't remember having a lot of problems with it when it first came out. Not until I started to understand the storyline and started to dissect it a little bit more. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. It's not the greatest game. But it's a good game.
It's not bad.
I like the store. They sell the body parts and stuff. I thought that was pretty sweet.
That's probably my least favorite part of the game.
That was my most memorable. I've told, ever since then, I've said to people, oh, I'll just go to the store and buy you a new hand. If they're like, my hand hurts.
I actually don't know if there's any reason to go into that store, is there? Like, I don't think I actually did anything there.
Just to look at everything and laugh.
The convenience store with E.T.?
No, with Fester Blatz.
Yeah. Just the random stuff store. And he has, like, various extra body parts in case you, like, lose one.
You do have to get something from it, but I don't remember. Yeah. Something late in the game, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you go back there? Because I don't think I did anything. Oh, okay.
You need to finish the game still, Rick. You gotta get back on that stream.
I don't want to.
Oh,
that's please. The problem.
I know you've got all these, like, I've only seen the 1/3 of how many games now. Like, where's the rest of Gold Rush, man?
Yeah, you're going to owe us so many apologies when you finish Gold Rush.
you're going to reach the ending and you're going to be like, whoa.
That tied it all together. It was like Lebowski's rug.
I'm sure I do give these games a harder time than they probably deserve. And I feel a little bit bad about that because I have in the past said that we kind of want to try to take a little bit more of a positive spin on things rather than just being negative for the sake of being negative, which is kind of exactly what I do to Gold Rush. So I do feel bad making fun of it so much. I really just do it for Paul's expression, to be perfectly honest, just because I like hearing his soul die just a little bit each time.
There's like positive negativity, isn't there? Like, if it's done for a laugh to make other people smile, or I mean, I know you just said you do it to hurt me, which is the opposite of what I'm describing, but in the spirit of ball breaking, you know what I mean? It's fun to have fun, you know, just let me get off our backs about it.
Yes, I mean, it's tough because like it was hard for me to come up with some really good examples of things that were just sort of like objectively in quotation marks, not good in quotation marks, but were still fun, for me. I guess probably, a good example for me is a game I've talked about quite a few times. I even did like a whole episode on it before. It's a game called Planet's Edge. Not really well known. It was, there's good and bad about it. I think a lot of it is pretty choppy. A lot of it feels kind of rough around the edges. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, like I said, I've already kind of talked about it to death in the past. Not that that's ever stopped Paul from talking about some of his games. But,
Gold Rush is my next pick.
Is it? Seriously?
No, it's not. Of course not. It's not bad on paper.
It totally is. Actually, no, on paper it's great. I admit that. On paper it's great.
Damn it, you always find a way to hurt me with that. Well played.
But again, Planet's Edge is just a great game. It's fun. There's so much I appreciate it. I've explained before that it's a game that is just a little bit greater than the sum of its parts. Like there's not any one specific thing about it that's particularly great. The animation is actually kind of terrible in it, all things considered. Controlling the characters is quite a chore at times, but it's fun. It's just so fun. Like going to each planet and they're all like an episode. It's very Star Trek-y in that way. Like each one has its own little soap opera. It's like it's literally playing a space opera in almost every single way. It's just so charming. It's fun. I really want to play more of it. I just keep getting sidetracked every time because it's quite a big game. There are parts of it that do kind of stretch out and it kind of make you harvest resources, and that gets a little bit tedious. So that's usually the parts where I kind of end up giving up on it a little bit. But just when you actually get down to it, to like the little episodes and play the little stories, it's just so fun and charming, and just like this little it's like playing a downgraded version of like the Star Trek 25th anniversary kind of game. So, but yeah, so I mean, I guess that's why I picked. There's not really a whole heck of a lot. I know neither of you have really played it before or at all. So, I don't know. I'll move on, I suppose. I'm just throwing that one out there.
Well, if I played it and liked it, then it would be on my list too, because the way it looks, I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks.
Okay, so you're looking up. You know what I'm talking about. Like, the graphics are not... Like, the graphics of the actual, like, when you land on the planet and, like, adventure, they kind of suck. If you look at all the other graphics, they're actually pretty great. I don't know, like, if you see any other screens...
Yeah, well, that's the weird part is like you're describing, like 8 out of 10 screens look just the worst. And then, and not necessarily even the art, but just for like, what I like in a game or whatever. But there's a few screens that look really intriguing, like really adventure gamey and up my alley.
Like what screens are you referring to? Like, what do you see right now?
As far as a good screen, there's it's like a colony, like a space station on the moon's surface.
Yes. That is like a singular instance. Like, seriously, there's no other screen that really is like that elsewhere in the game. All of the, like, there's like the spaceport where you see your ship. That's like really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool too. I'm looking at that right now. I guess what I don't like is like the top down views like, with that checkerboard thing and the top down of the moon surface. The moon surface could have been better. That's pretty,
Yes, those are where it kind of falls apart, because that's where the graphics and the animations are really phoned in. But so that's why it's kind of like I can't defend that, because even that does kind of wear me down a little bit when I play it. But it is actually really fun just when you play it. Like, you can't look at a picture and understand it, but when you actually play it, it's. I mean, I know you just hate anything that's not adventure, Paul.
This is true, yeah.
Anna, you might actually really quite like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a go.
For the adventure segments of the game, picture Ultima 6, but just a little bit less. Because you can tell that it's totally trying to kind of mimic the Ultima 6 engine. but it just doesn't do as good of a job. And
I wouldn't have guessed that just looking at the gameplay. No.
Oh yeah, it's pretty obvious when you play it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you've played Ultima 6, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I played an Ultima game once. Remember?
No, you didn't.
I've never finished an Ultima game. I know that. The beginning of it has the Space Quest look with the red around the blue. Planet's Edge, one of the pictures I'm looking at. Wow. Probably heavily influenced by Space Quest, I'm guessing.
This one?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Nothing about it really struck me as Space Quest.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never seen it. Pretty colors, though.
Mm-hmm.
Such a girl thing to say, oh my god. But the colors are so pretty. They coordinate so well.
I would say that any graphics in the game that aren't the actual, away missions are actually really quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Like any of the cockpit views when you're, or whatever, the bridge view rather, not cockpit. But when you hail other aliens, that's pretty cool art there when you see talking to the other races.
Yeah, I like how it does it. Brings it up in the big center screen and you're all on the comm and doing your serious work. I like it when they come up with creative aliens or other species you have to deal with too. I think that's part of the charm of some of these games. And that's the same with a game like Warcraft or Heroes of Might and Magic or Final Fantasy, for example. Those cool character creations and monsters or aliens that keep you intrigued and wanting to know what they're all about.
Mm-hmm.
You know what game probably shouldn't have had no business being great, but it is James Pond 2 Robocod.
I remember the name. I never played it.
Is that a real thing? I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was. I don't want to say it was big at the time, but I definitely heard about it a lot when it came out.
I don't even remember why it was great. You're just a stretchy fish, and it was a bloody good time. The one thing he could do was just delightful, which was stretch a little bit, 3 inches upwards.
Did you actually play it though? Because it's not an adventure game.
Yeah, I did as a kid, and I always forget that I've played a decent amount of console games, but not in 20 years. So
right. Well, actually, I forgot that it was console. What system was it for? I'm pretty sure there was also a computer version. I'm pretty sure that's the part that I actually read up on. What console was it for?
I think it was Mega Drive.
Oh, that's probably why I don't know it. I have all respect for the Mega Drive, but I have not really played very much on it, except for the same games that everyone's played on it.
That's what was sold as Genesis over here, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then that one.
It's funny we should all of a sudden bring up consoles this episode because I think that's kind of my big shining example for a game that was actually a lot more fun than it had any reason to be. But Castlevania 2: Simon's Quest, I actually had a lot of fun playing it. No, I didn't finish it because it was actually impossible because it really didn't make any sense what to do or how to do things or anything like that. But be that as it may, just turning it on for an hour at a time, just running around killing things and just Simon's questing all over the place. I don't know. However old I was a kid. It was fun. I had a great time with that one.
Yeah, I played it. I've never owned it, but I had a friend who had it and I've rented it before and it was hard. I mean, to me, I didn't really get really far in it. I found it frustrating but fun.
Yeah. Fun though, right?
Yeah, no, I had no time did I regret spending my $6 or whatever on it. So,
and it gave us that awesome Bloody Tears theme, which is one of the greatest video game themes of all time.
Yeah, I remember the theme, which is how I know I've played it, but I don't remember playing it.
Well, you might not have necessarily played it because it is one of those themes that is so awesome that it's basically entered the collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah.
I could totally see somebody knowing the tune without playing the game.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm not sure that we had that growing up. Did you lot have we had a weird system growing up, TurboGrafx.
Yes, I didn't have it, but I totally remember
I didn't have
all
one,
about
but
it.
Yeah, I know.
Right, and we had Splatterhouse and then Bonk, but Bonk was amazing.
Bonk was
Bonk
great.
is a great game.
Yes.
I love that game.
You're not officially entering that into this list because there's nothing bad about Bonk.
Everybody listening, hear that, okay? We're gonna still get an angry letter about it. It came up in that episode.
We're not going to put Bonk on the thumbnail. No, that was a great game. Splatterhouse as well was really good.
Bonk is another one that I rented. I loved the idea of being able to bust things up with your head.
Yeah, exactly. It was my nickname for a bit too, because my head grew faster than my body.
Bonk. Aw.
You knew that many people who had a TurboGrafx 16 that they could actually nickname you Bonk?
No, it's just my brother.
Okay.
Well, speaking of...
I secretly have always wanted a nickname, and that was as close as I ever got, so...
That's all you're getting, Bonk. It's cute now, though.
So what about bloody licensed games, right? That's a category where it's like, especially back in the day, I know licensed properties have become more popular and become kind of a thing lately, but when we had Aulo on the show, he was saying that way back in the day, they kind of just let their Disney license go because way back when licensed games weren't going well. And so anyway, it's been a struggle, I think, for licensed games in the PC gaming world to get anywhere. But games like, I don't know, Bill and Ted and Wayne's World and Zorro, and there's just been a mess of them that were generally regarded as garbage. So again, something that probably, I think it kind of had no business being a great game, and it was so much fun, which was Beavis and Butthead's Virtual Stupidity.
Oh,
that game was a blast. It was so much fun. I would have never thought that a Beavis and Butthead licensed game from the middle of the 90s, when there was like Rugrats and Daria and just all these horrible point and clicks, that emerged as like an actual great game, or at least a lot of fun.
I can't speak to that particular game, but in terms of licensing, it's always been a mixed bag, because you get like, these days you get some pretty good ones. Like, it depends what you even consider licensing, honestly. Like, is it just anything that was based on like an existing property that was licensed for games? But I know movie licensing has notoriously always just been the worst, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's, I guess for my own definition of it, not saying it's the definitive one, but yeah, that's what I'd be referring to as like an IP that was purchased just to exploit it in a quick cash grab game.
Right.
Going back to Beavis and Butthead, I thought it was great. I thought the music they selected for it was funny. I have the big box right now. It's a fun box. It's a good game. It still held a little bit of a value. I picked it up for $40 Canadian, so that's probably about the same as it was selling for in the first place. And guar, Primus, sausage. Come on, this stuff's great.
Yeah, that's right, Primus. And no, the box is now going for a lot, because I've been looking for one for a while, and they're bloody up there. They're up there. Yeah, 90s, 100s now.
Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
But yeah, it's one of those weird non-Sierra, non-LucasArts that got Scum VM support. Somebody in the Scum team has like some serious love for it to have made it work with Scum VM.
So is it like an adventure game? I don't really know anything about this. I honestly am one of the people who did not really like Beavis and Butthead growing up, even though I was like that age I was supposed to have.
Right.
It's kind of like it. You have to do stuff, and you have to talk to people, and you have to complete little tasks. It's like a mix of things, really.
Yeah, honestly, I can't remember it so well because I played it way back in the day, but it's definitely a point-and-click interface. Mm-hmm. Okay. And being that I brought it up and like it definitely is heavy on the adventure side. Mm-hmm. There were no RPG elements for it to have made it into my memory.
Because looking at it, it looks like it probably is a more point-and-click adventure than or adventure of some sort than anything else.
It's point-and-click mixed in with mini-games.
Oh. Interesting. Okay. Well, that sounds like it could be fun. Do people I guess the fact that it's licensed kind of like made people think it'd be bad. Was there anything that was actually objectively bad about it that it's fun in spite of?
No, I think the reason I'm mentioning it now for this episode, I guess, is just I have such a preconceived notion against licensed games from being burned before, like with Wayne's World and Dark Half and Daria and Rugrats, which I played with my son. All right, no, I didn't. It was me by myself. No, but I'm saying it because I played so many licensed games or IP property games that were just utter rubbish that I'm just shocked that one of them, and it was right in that period, like 98, where point and click was just about to die, or adventure was just about to die, but it hadn't yet. So that was like the popular go-to genre. So like all these IPs just got point and click games. And, nowadays you look back and you see this long list of like, hey, I loved that movie. Or like, I loved Wayne's World. Oh my God, there's a point and click Wayne's World. Oh, here's one. There's a point and click Ace Ventura. I bloody love that movie and you all probably know it. So it's like the weirdest things from Wayne's World to Ace Ventura to Beavis and Butthead all got these point and click games. And besides Beavis and Butthead, they just all were just horrible to me. So that's why I'm putting it on the list. Despite it being licensed, aka horrible, it was great. Well,
funny enough, you mentioned Dark Half there, and I kind of got a chuckle because I totally forgot about that game, and I've heard nothing but bad things. And if I really think about it, like, I don't know, I actually didn't mind that game. This is going to like destroy my credibility because I know everyone hates it, and apparently it's like supposed to be one of the worst games ever. I kind of liked it. I don't even really know why. Like, I think it was just because it was a game that I had. That was the game that I played at that time for no reason whatsoever, just randomly. And I did well enough. And I can't compare it to anything else that's Dark Half. I never read the book. I never saw the movie. So it was like fine to me. Like, I wouldn't say it was a classic, but I actually kind of liked it.
Is part of the problem that people don't think it lines up with the actual storyline? Is it go against canon?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I've just like, it's a game that I liked, and I just keep hearing people saying that it was like the worst game ever. So I just kind of like nod my head and say, well, you guys must be right, because I don't really remember it very well, except that I had fun. So I'm not saying that it's going to hold up. I could possibly go back and not like, there are things that maybe sort of think, that's weird, but nothing that ever prevented me from enjoying playing it. Like, there were things that were, don't make logical sense, and, which is a valid argument to make against it if things don't make logical sense for various reasons and take you out of the experience. But I don't know. I just took it as it was. I just took it as a game, and I played it, and I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I've read all of the books, and I didn't even know that The Dark Half was a game, so this is new to me.
I'd be curious to know what your opinion is of it, because it's a full-on point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah, it looks very pretty.
And I'm fully just bandwagoning that, like you had said, mate. You've heard so many people trash it that I'm just kind of assuming that it's bad. I played very little bit of it a long time ago when I was a kid, and so it was like pre-walkthrough era for me. And I remember it being too hard and quitting. But that doesn't mean the game is too hard, because again, I was really young. Like, I was probably 11 or something.
I was the other way. It's like one of the only games I actually finished without a walkthrough. And there's stupid things about it, don't get me wrong, but just nothing that ever, just things that sort of made me cock my head and go like, as opposed to actually like shaking my fist at it. Like, things like,
right.
One of the things is that you have to like, in order to get into the zone for writing, you have to like smoke cigarettes, and you don't just like go out there and like get a pack of cigarettes and smoke them. You like find a handful of cigarette butts in like a car or something. And then that's just like what you light to start smoking. It's, those weird things like, stupid, like shoehorned in for the sake of wanting to be an adventure game kind of puzzle work like that.
Wow. They shared Rocket Hard and Castle Rock. Jeez.
What?
That's the city.
Oh. No, I know what Castle Rock is, but I wasn't sure if that was like a tagline or something.
No, I'm just like smoking cigarette butts as a go-to. Like, can he not afford to go to the store? Is that a thing?
Yeah. And like one of like the final puzzles is sort of like to prevent this guy from slashing you with a razor, you like momentarily distract him and swap it out with a dull razor. So the guy, every time you like do something that makes the guy want to slash you, he'll slash you with a dull razor so it doesn't kill you, and then he'll like move on. Because like his intent apparently was never to actually kill you, but just like hit you with whatever was in his hand at that moment. So
there's a tetanus shot after that. Yeah. Jesus.
So there's weird logics. Like there's stupidity to it that I fully understand. That's like, if you really break it down, it's like, okay, that was pretty dumb. But again, it was just like, it was a point and click adventure game, and I just took it as a game. I think stupid logic and nonsensical puzzles have just always sort of been there for me that I just sort of, I'm not phased when I come across it anymore. Yeah. I just take that as video game logic as opposed to, at the time, I think nowadays I'd be a lot more critical of that sort of thing. But at the time that I played it, I'm sure I would hate it if I play it now, maybe, who knows. But at the time, that was the logic to me. Just sort of, hey, it's a game. This is what it did. You just do as the game tells you. I wasn't really discerning back then.
There's a difference too between nonsensical and moon logic. Like, I don't know, the bit in Space Quest 6 where you have to freeze the android in the basement or whatever he is, like that, to me, that's just the epitome of moon logic. It was so convoluted, etc., where it's just maddening. An example to me of nonsensical, which would be like the razor blade, like instead of disarming him, you're gonna make it dull, and he's just all he really wants to do is just graze you with a blade, and he's not really concerned what happens from there on out.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
A good example, and to come in defense of a infamously detested puzzle solution, would be the pie in King's Quest V. Where I don't see that as moon logic. I just see that as nonsensical. Like, it's just kind of silly. But like, in the moment, there's nowhere you can go, and there's nothing to pick up on the screen. No objects to pick up. So all you have is what's in your inventory. And from what's in your inventory, there's like, at the time, there's like 8 or so items. And basically it comes down to a pie or a boot. So it's like, maybe you try the boot first. I'm going to throw my shoe at him first. Sure, you die, and then you go back and you're like, okay, well, all that's left is a pie. I mean, I have seen people hit in the face with pies before. That is a thing that exists in the ether. Like, it's a thing. So I don't find it that ridiculous. I mean, not any more or less so than anything else in any of those games. But anyway, my point was just to say this: I don't mind nonsensical, and it's definitely a difference between that and moon logic.
Yeah, fair enough.
didn't even know the existence of moon logic until I started talking to people online in the last couple of years. Some games were harder and some puzzles were harder, but I didn't realize that, like, not making sense versus harder were two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to just refer to moon logic as enraging or effing ridiculous.
It wasn't until very recently that I came across the term moon logic, so I didn't know what to call it before. But yeah, nonsensical is generally what I regarded it as when you have something like, I can't even think of like a really good, the pie in the face of a Yeti is a pretty good example of what I would consider kind of moon logic. But, there's things like to use the most famous examples, like the cat hair mustache or the weird rubber duck pulley thing in, what's that game? The Longest Journey. But like I said, that is just a little bit on the extreme side, but things like Dark Half, it was just, it doesn't hold up to scrutiny in the slightest bit, and I even knew that at the time, but that's just what video games were to me.
Yeah.
So further to your point, Anna, it was just sort of like, well, yeah, sure, it didn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It's a video game. You just try to get it. It's all just about guessing what the designer had in mind.
It almost never makes sense. Why would it now? That would be weird.
Especially if you're trying to guess what the designer thinks that you have in mind.
Yeah.
It's like, how deep does this go?
What's really unfair is I hate how the pie and the Yeti thing gets lambasted, obviously with a grain of salt and all in the name of a good time or a laugh, so I get it. I'm not taking it as like, I'm not triggered basically by anybody making fun of it. But it's weird how that one is like, man, that was so stupid. And then the rubber chicken pulley from Monkey Island is just like, it's just renowned. Like, oh my God, that was comedic genius. Like, I don't know, man. In the moment, it's not that funny. Like when you don't know how to get across the bloody pond and you're supposed to shove, a pulley up a rubber chicken and then put the chicken around the rope, like that is moon logic. I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not funny in the end, but it's it's moon logic.
This is going into a whole can of worms of a topic in and of itself, where it's just sort of tone, right? Right. Monkey Island could get away with that because it established the tone that is something well within the realm of its universe, whereas you would not get away with that in King's Quest. The thing that gets me about the pie in the Yeti's face is more just the fact that, like, I'm pretty sure most people who tried that were thinking they were going to offer the pie to the Yeti to eat.
Surprise!
But then it's sort of like, oh, I guess that also worked, you know?
Oh my god, he threw it. Oh my god, he fell off a cliff. Holy shit, it worked.
It's like, I just wanted to, like, satiate his appetite. I didn't want to kill a guy.
You have no choice.
That's great.
Or maybe someone actually figured it out. Maybe they're like, hey, I have a pie. Why don't I just throw it in his face?
Well, speaking of King's Quest, the game I've brought up a few other times as well is King's Quest VIII, and that's well known to be a game that's not necessarily on everybody's top 10 lists. But again, at the time, I was impatient for a King's Quest game. It had been a long time. I wasn't super happy with King's Quest VII personally, so it came out and I played it, and for all of its flaws, I thought it was a fun game. Yeah, I had fun checking it out, wandering around, taking the role of Connor and his lovely name. I thought it was good.
That is, you know what? That is the perfect name for a swordsman in a knight. Anybody who's ever said otherwise is a fool.
If I ever heard a name that was just perfect for that, it'd be Connor.
Yeah.
I think it's really his name that made the game what it was, which is better than, you would think.
I know.
So go play it. Even nowadays, it turns out it only takes about 20 minutes of troubleshooting to get it to run on just about any modern computer. No less than 20 minutes, guaranteed. It took me about 30, so...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I honestly didn't even know King's Quest VIII existed until, like, recently. Cause that's
really?
How little I actually followed King's Quest. I dropped off the face of most Sierra games by the time it came out. So I really only knew it existed within, like, the last few years, because I'm really that far detached from that series. But, so, I don't know. I mean, I guess people had their moment of hating it, but I've also, and they still do, don't get me wrong, I still see a lot of hate for that game. But I've also seen quite a lot of people who defend it insofar as saying, great game, not King's Quest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, if that had come out and it would have been Connor's Journey, I would have been like, oh, what's this? But you know what? I wouldn't have bought it if that's what the name was. And to be fair, if it wasn't a King's Quest game, I never would have played it because it wouldn't have been on my radar at all. Mm-hmm. So
I would have bought it if it was Connor's Quest, because that's how much I love that name. I mean, I would have bought it if I wasn't too busy watching bloody Highlander. Am I right?
But the music was beautiful in the game. The art was very pretty. I loved the maps in the game. The controls were awkward. You had to direct the camera and, pick where you wanted him to look. So a lot of the scenarios or puzzles, so to speak, would be happening behind you or above you. And you'd be like, why the heck do I keep on dying? Well, you can be like, when I go into the mill, I have to look up. Oh, okay. I'm getting hit by the mill going around or whatever.
So, as quick as possible, how does Connor tie into the whole story? Is he actually secretly related to Graham?
Oh,
or is
he's the guardian of the village. He's a local artist. He's known to have an interest in Sarah.
Like, I'm not asking who he is as a person. I mean, like, how does he tie into King's Quest?
I'm getting there. He was an inhabitant of Daventry. Connor, hang on. A young townsperson was about to become the most important person in the world's history after he talked to his friend Sarah. The mask of eternity reigned on the land. One piece landed at Connor's feet. Just as he picked it up, the supernatural spell reached the ground. In a flash, every inhabitant turned to stone, except for him.
Okay,
so
but
he's just
he was the only person that wasn't
of
stone.
Daventry.
So yeah, that's it. That was just it takes place in Daventry. That's the only connection.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. See,
so that alone is disappointing because they did such a good job of. One of the strengths of that series, like I'm at 6 now, was how, like, you have Manananan in 3, and then he shows back up in 5, and you meet Cosima in 5, and she's in 6. Like, I liked how they kept, they made it its own little universe. That was really nice. So it's totally surprising they abandoned all the, they were getting to like Simpsons level of characters, and they just abandoned them all for Connor.
Mm-hmm. There were little references here and there, but overall, no, not quite the same. Mm-hmm. Connor, as I've mentioned before, was a little bit dry.
But again, wait, actually, hang on a second. It just occurred to me. It's not officially King's Quest 8, is it? It's just King's Quest Mask of Eternity? Like, I know people refer to it as King's Quest 8, but isn't it just King's Quest Mask of Eternity? So maybe that's sort of like their way of breaking away from the through line of like the King Graham's family, was just that, well, it's King's Quest insofar as it's that universe, but it's not officially King's Quest 8. It's King's Quest Mask of Eternity.
I'd have to get my box down. You have to hold on a moment and I'll
I just did that. I've got it here.
Oh, have you got the box there? Okay.
It's nowhere on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't say 8, right?
No, correct. Yeah,
it's as known as King's Quest 8 Mask of Eternity, but I don't think it's actually labeled as such.
Yeah, it's King's Quest 8 as much as Police Quest 4 is Police Quest 4, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I would agree with you there. Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be connected to the King Graham's family.
See, when I was younger and I didn't know any different about companies, I thought Mask of Eternity was the answer to the Quest for Glory series, not understanding that they weren't actually in competition with each other. I'm just like, oh, this is the next logical step.
Right.
Because Sierra's always progressing.
It's like, King's Quest, the king is Graham. You know what I mean? Like, the king in Quest is Graham, and so therefore Graham's family. I'm just saying that the title King's Quest should still kind of, just without saying, include Graham, but whatever. In hindsight, speaking on behalf of them, I think they made a mistake of doing two totally different new things at once. Like, they went for the 3D and they added a bunch of action elements and they abandoned Graham. Like, maybe they should have kept the Graham family if they were going to change the way the game plays.
No, I don't necessarily
keep something
think
familiar.
For me personally, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that if they're going to go with like a whole other play style, like just switch genres almost entirely, then why do you need to make it about Graham's family? Like, I don't think that. I think this is the perfect excuse to do something different.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. Well, I agree. Not that I necessarily agree. I see exactly what you mean. And obviously, Roberta Williams agrees. But I think for me and maybe other people, like the complete disattachment and have zero interest in playing it is like, there's not one thing that I can hold on to and be like, because I like the first 7, I should play this. There is no, you know what I mean? If you like the first 7, there's like no reason to play this one if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
there is a reason Graham's not involved, though, because every single, like when I mentioned before, everybody's stone, right? I mean, that means everybody, including the king and the queen and anybody else that could potentially have anything to do with this quest, right? So they did tie it up pretty neatly.
But for me, it's sort of like, I understand that as a company, King's Quest was like a marquee title, so they have to throw it on there so people know that they're supposed to buy it. Artistically speaking, it might have been better if it was something like Tales of Daventry or something like that. Like, break away from King's Quest so people don't try to compare it to the other games of the series if it's only like really so loosely connected at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was something like Daventry, Mask of Eternity, or something like that, right? But then, they'd probably lose money because people don't know that they're supposed to buy it because it's not called King's Quest. So
that's true.
But yeah, so I totally get what you mean on this one. Yeah, it defied the odds to if it's actually fun at all. Just people didn't like it because it wasn't. It called itself King's Quest, and it did not do anything to resemble King's Quest except throw in a few references here and there. So people were upset. But like I said, you being one example, but other people have also said that it was fun, just not a King's Quest, right?
Yeah, it was almost what I imagined the next Quest for Glory might be like when it came out.
Right.
Yeah, because I was jonesing for a new Quest for Glory game. I wanted one so bad. So this came out and I was like, oh, this actually kind of fills that niche. Thank you.
That's actually a really cool way to... it's an interesting angle to come at it from. So that's probably why you enjoyed it more than most others did.
Yeah, if you were like solely a diehard King's Quest fan, then yeah, but I was already a little turned off from the series anyways.
Ah, yeah.
At that point, I was a bit disheartened and I'm like, well, at least it's not like, I'm sorry, 7, so.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not totally sure about this one as far as where I don't really know where this game stands. Maybe you can both of you can enlighten me, but I think that more than not, Phantasmagoria is regarded as not a good game.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, and I get that. I do. I see all the things that everyone else sees, but it's still fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like a B horror movie. Like, it's not. Well, I don't know what this was actually supposed to be, but in regards to a B horror movie, it's not supposed to be, a masterpiece of cinema. It's just a good time, and that's completely how I see Phantasmagoria. It's just fun. Like, I really enjoy it. I couldn't relate it any better than a B horror movie. Like, if you know what you signed up for, you shouldn't really be able to complain. I think it is what it's supposed to be. Maybe at the time it was marketed as more of like, this cutting edge, interactive movie and the quality is through the roof and this and that. I don't know, but I'm just saying if you're on the fence about it because of what people are saying, but you're also aware that it's just like a silly good time, it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure if it was really intended to be a good time. I think it was trying to be like scary. Like, I think it was actually trying to like play it very straight. I don't think it was really going for schlock. I think it just was.
Right.
Right.
Well, they took it super seriously, right? I mean, I was just reading about this. They had over 24 actors. It was only supposed to cost under $1 million, but it ended up costing almost $5 million. And, all the gore was done in FX Studios. It was really a big deal. They filmed for like 4 months. They had actors doing these 12-hour shifts. It was really quite intense. So when you take that into account watching it, you can almost just like think about the passion and how cool everything they were doing was in the game. And it's a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I have two perspectives of it too. When I played it when it came out with my dad and brother, and I was young. When did this come out? 95? 96? So I would have been. Let's just go with the ish factor. I would have been about 12, and it scared the shit out of me.
I bet.
Oh, okay. So it actually did at the time.
Yeah. Now I don't know if I was 20 or 30 at the time if it would have, but 12 years old when that came out, like the one death where he's shoving the dirt down her throat, that I had nightmares about that scene for like weeks. So it delivered twice for me. Once as they intended when it came out and I was 12, it was genuinely scary, and then again when I was older as more of a B movie. So. That could be the aging factor too, because it is hard nowadays to not look at her in like her bongo mom jeans and not have, not have a bit of a yuck. And
the gore effects are great. I'm playing through it right now. I think I'm impressed with what they did outside of the acting, which, may not have been the most amazing acting. I think it's great fun for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well then, what do you think, dear listeners? Are there any games that you think defied the odds to be a lot more fun than they maybe necessarily should have been? Let us know. Send us an email at mail@classicgamersguild.com, or you can join the discussion in our Facebook group. You can follow our Facebook page for updates on when the episodes go live. Follow us on Twitter at the CG Guild. Follow us on Instagram at CGG Podcast. And if you would like to support the show, we are on Patreon. Come find us at the Classic Gamers Guild. We appreciate all of you supporters of ours on Patreon, including those of you in the extra special thanks tier, Mark Fillion and Jay Holmes. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your contributions. And of course, we thank all of you listeners for making us do what we do.
Have a good night.
If you disagree with us, we agree with you. Don't do a murder.